Hello everyone. We are going to continue our discussion on bacterial zoonosis. Today's topic is related with rodents. So first we'll have a bit a discussion on rodents and what are various diseases that occurs due to rodents. So what are rodents? What rodents includes? They mainly includes rats and mice. And interesting thing about these rodents is they are very huge in number in our environment, and sometimes it may happen that their population may exceed human population. The reason is one female rat it can give rise to 100 offsprings every year. So you can imagine the huge population that is likely to be present in our surrounding. So generally these rodents they prefer to live in close proximity with man, and at the same time they contaminate our foodstuffs. They act as reservoir of infection or source of infection, so they are playing important role in relation to human health. Being reservoir, being source of infection, they can transmit important diseases like leptospirosis, plague. List is big that we'll see later. Now, regarding these rodents, basically elimination of their habitat or destruction of rat is one of the most important thing if we want to improve health of human beings, specifically for those diseases which are related with rodents. And these rodents they not only cause damage to the health of people, but at the same time they can cause economic loss also. So one of the important site where we can found these rodents very commonly is food grains or granaries. So whatever granaries are there, these rodents are very commonly found and they consume large amount of food grains and causes economic loss. At the same time, it can cause damages to the buildings, and it may cause damage to electric cables, and sometimes that may create some disastrous situation. So this is just about introduction to the rodents. Now how these rodents are classified? These rodents are classified into two groups. So one group is of domestic rodent and second group is of wild rodents. Domestic rodents which are mainly concerned with public health. It includes black rat. So name of this black rat is common name. Its zoological name is Rattus rattus. Second type of rat is Norway rat, which is also known as Rattus norvegicus, and third type is house mouse. House mouse is also known as Mus musculus. So I repeat, it is black rat, Rattus rattus, Norway rat, Rattus norvegicus, and house mouse, that is Mus musculus. Now if you find some rats they are climbing and coming to the terrace at higher level, so you can say this is Rattus rattus or this is black rat, because these are generally found on the roofs of houses, and these are good climbers, so they can climb at higher levels also. And Rattus rattus, like on terrace we can find it on ships also. And second variety, sometimes it is found in houses and sometimes it is found in drains or it is found in sewers. Sewers is underground drainage line. So in this sewers or in drains we can find the rat, or sometimes even people may find the rats coming through their plumbing pipe or drainage pipe. This type of rat is mainly Norway rat, and this is semi-domestic. So since we are saying it semi-domestic, we can find it in houses also, and outside the houses we can find it in sewers and in drains. So three important species we talked about this rodents as far as domestic rodents are concerned. Wild rodents names are a little bit difficult, but one important species you must know, which is found in India, it is Tatera indica. It is Tatera indica. It is a reservoir of one of the important infection which we are going to talk in later sessions. So right now just remember the name. So when we start the disease, you should be able to recall name of this wild rodent which act as reservoir for this particular disease. In addition to Tatera indica, it is Bandicota indica. It is Bandicota bengalensis. It is Millardia meltada and other species. So simply we can say this is Tatera, this is Bandicota, and this is Millardia, and there are several subspecies which are found in as wild rodents. So again, in relation to health, as we said, these rodents, they act as a reservoir of infection, or they act as source of infection, and they can spread different types of disease. These diseases can be bacterial in origin, they can be viral in origin, they can be rickettsial, or they can be parasitic, or even we can include some of them in other categories. Which diseases are of bacterial origin where rodents are playing important role? So it includes plague, it includes salmonellosis, tularemia, where causative agents, causative organisms will be bacteria. Now viral, it includes Lassa fever, hemorrhagic fever, etc. In rickettsial diseases, the diseases that are concerned with rodents, it includes scrub typhus, marine typhus, rickettsial pox. Among parasitic diseases, the examples, it includes Chagas disease, it includes leishmaniasis, trichinosis, etc. And others, it can be rat bite fever, it can be histoplasmosis, or it can be leptospirosis. So our today's topic is leptospirosis. So let's begin with leptospirosis. Leptospirosis, it is a major zoonotic disease, and in relation to causative organism, we can say it is bacterial zoonotic disease. Now since we are saying it is zoonotic, it is mainly transmitted to man from animals, and these animals will be obviously rodents like rats and mice. So bacterial zoonotic disease which transmit infection to mans, and these animals are mainly rodents. Now what clinically you can see in leptospirosis, in majority of cases picture is variable, and it may show spectrum where some patients will have just mild febrile illness, some people will have Wills disease, or some people may develop a serious infection which may prove fatal, where there is involvement of organs like liver and kidney. What we can say about problem statement related with leptospirosis? So leptospirosis, it is highly prevalent in tropical countries. So in tropical countries, environmental conditions are somewhat warm and humid. So wherever there is warm and humid climate, we can see higher prevalence of leptospirosis. Outbreaks are generally reported of this disease, and what is the common time when we can notice outbreaks of leptospirosis? So after rainfall, if floods occurs, so during flood condition, these leptospirosis outbreaks are likely to occur. If you refer to previous editions, you may come across the estimated annual global incidence of leptospirosis. It is given as more than 5 lakh cases. So, estimated cases every year at global level can be 5 lakh or more than 5 lakh cases. Whereas, in some areas, the incidence is very high and it is about 975 cases per 1 lakh population. As per the statistical data mentioned in recent, that is 25th edition of K-PARC. What is global burden of leptospirosis? Exact number of leptospirosis cases is not known, but estimated cases it includes near about 1 million or even more than 1 million, which occurs every year. Here I am talking about annual estimated incidence of leptospirosis. It can be 1 million or more than 1 million, and near about 60,000 deaths annually occurs due to leptospirosis. There are certain areas where incidence of leptospirosis is very high, and it is about 975 cases we can detect in 1 lakh population. So this is simply 975 cases per 1 lakh population. How leptospirosis occurs in India? In India, leptospirosis can be seen in the form of outbreaks. Let's see epidemiological determinants related with leptospirosis. Epidemiological determinants as far as agent is concerned. So these are caused by leptospira. So causative agent here is leptospira, and leptospira are very thin and these are actively motile microorganisms. So it's a separate group that you have studied in microbiology. And one important feature regarding their identification, how we can identify these leptospira, is they are having a twisted spiral structure, and this twisting it occurs around the central axis or long axis. And one more important feature which help in identification of leptospira is they have hook like end. So this resembles like umbrella handles. So if you have seen handle of umbrella, so these leptospira they shows similar curved or hooked end resembling to handle of umbrella. So these are some morphological features of leptospira. But here you should know what are important pathogenic strains, and how many serotypes or how many serogroups are there which can infect human beings. So pathogenic important strain is Leptospira introgans, and there are about 23 serogroups and 200 serotypes. And these different 23 serotypes and 200 serogroups, they are found in different parts of the world. We said causative agents are Leptospira, which are thin motile spirochetes having 0.1 to 0.2 micron width and 5 to 15 micron length. They are having hooked ends with the help of which identification becomes very easy. The only strain which is pathogenic, it includes Leptospira introgans. There are 23 serogroups and 200 serovars. These serogroups and serovars we can find throughout the world or different parts of the world, and they are serologically related with cross reactivity. Reservoir of infection for leptospirosis. So reservoirs are mainly animal reservoirs. So leptospira or leptospirosis infection, it is seen in domestic animals also, and it is seen in wild animals also. So important reservoirs, it includes rodents such as rats, mice and voles. Most domestic animals like cattle, sheep, goats, water buffalo, pigs, and horses may get infected while grazing in areas contaminated by urine of the carrier host. Even we can find leptospirosis in pet animals like dogs. Infection may spread from wild animals to domestic animals. Most important reservoirs are Rattus norvegicus and Mus musculus. I repeat the name once again, Rattus norvegicus and Mus musculus. Whether these are domestic animals or whether these are wild animals, once they get infected with leptospira, they develop leptospirosis. And majority of these animals, they harbor these leptospira in convoluted tubules or simply in kidney, where these microorganisms, they multiply and they are shedded in urine. So what is portal of exit for these bacteria from infected animals? So it is urine. And how long these animals can shed bacilli or bacteria in urine? So they can shed these leptospira in urine for longer period. But if these are rodents, rodents are capable of shedding leptospira throughout their entire span. So remember, this is one of the most important aspect related to our environment and environmental factors related to our health. So once rodents are infected, throughout their life they will keep on shedding leptospira in their urine. Now, in addition to rodents, what other animals are there which may develop leptospirosis? So, these animals, it includes grazing animals like cattle, goat, sheep, or even sometimes horses also. And pigs also, they can acquire infection while grazing. So, in the areas where these animals are grazing, if that grass is contaminated with urine of infected animals, other animals can acquire infection. So this is one possibility how infection can spread to grazing animals. And one more possibility is the fodder which is given to animals or water which is given to animals, if it gets contaminated with urine of infected animals, and if such contaminated water or fodder it is consumed by other animals, so other grazing animals can also acquire infection. So there are two ways when they are grazing in open fields, open areas. If that area is contaminated with urine and grazing occurs at such places, or if they are in cattle sheds or they are in sheds where they get ready water and ready fodder. But if this fodder is contaminated, even consumption of this can result in leptospirosis. So animal reservoirs, there are various reservoirs, but must know thing is rodents. What is source of infection? So by now it is very clear that source of infection will be definitely urine. So this is urine of infected animals. So these leptospira will spread to other animals or will spread to human also through urine. What are various modes of transmission? How leptospirosis is transmitted? Now here we are talking about human transmission. So how human can acquire infection from animals? So there are three important modes of transmission. One is direct contact, other one is indirect contact, which is seen in humans, and droplet infection is another mode of transmission of leptospirosis. What is meaning of direct contact? This is a direct contact of human with the urine or tissues of infected animals. So what happens whenever people will have direct contact with urine? Leptospira, if present in urine, they can enter through the skin. Now, if skin is abraded, entry of leptospira will be favored. but at the same time you should know, even if intact skin is there, still leptospira can enter. So leptospira can enter through skin, or even they can enter through mucus or mucosa of nose or mouth. So two important things, either it is skin or either it is mucosa. If people will have direct contact with urine and the leptospira they are present, they can enter through skin as well as through mucosa. So this is direct contact. Now indirect contact, what is another possibility? So another possibility is the urine of infected animals. If it is in soil, so that soil may contain leptospira, and if people will have contact with this soil, or there is possibility of contamination of water or food with urine of these animals. So two possibilities is presence of leptospira in soil or presence of leptospira in water and food, and ingestion of such contaminated food or water. These are two important modes of transmission. Arthropods are not playing any role in transmission. So if examiner will ask you arthropod borne infections and if you will give example of leptospirosis, this example will definitely be wrong. So since arthropods, they are not playing important role in transmission of leptospirosis. So to recall, we said in humans infection may be acquired due to direct contact with urine, where the organisms will enter through skin or mucosa, and secondly organisms will enter through mouth due to consumption of contaminated food or due to consumption of contaminated water with leptospira. One more mode of transmission is that there is possibility of congenital leptospirosis. Now what is congenital leptospirosis? So this is transplacental transmission. So if pregnant female acquires this infection, if she suffers from leptospirosis, these leptospira may cross placenta and may affect the fetus growing inside the uterus. So this transplacental transmission, it may result either in death of the fetus or fetus may develop congenital leptospirosis. Okay, so this is important mode of transmission, or rather we can say this can be one of the important disease if it occurs during pregnancy, as it can damage health of the fetus. Next mode of transmission is droplet infection. Droplet infection can occur when the droplets of urine contaminated with leptospira are inhaled directly. Thus, presence of droplets of urine in our environment may be dangerous, specifically if these urine droplets contains leptospira. Direct man-to-man infection is rare. So there is a rare possibility that leptospirosis may get transmitted from man to man. Regarding host factors, the disease is common to occur in children also and in adults also. So commonest mode of occurrence of disease in children, it is mainly from dogs. So children can acquire infections from pet animals like dogs, whereas in adults the commonest mode of infection will be from, or it will be related with the occupational exposure. Now occupational exposure, whenever the people while working they have contact with urine of infected animals, so they may develop leptospirosis. So which occupations have risk of exposure? So it includes livestock farmers, it includes dairy farmers, agricultural workers, to be specifically those which are working in rice fields or those which are working in sugar cane fields. Then workers which are working in sewers, underground sewers, or those people which are involved in cleaning of sewers. So this is the group which is having higher risk, As we know, in sewers we can found Norway rat. Then veterinarians is another group, animal handlers, meat handlers, or simply we can say those workers who are working at slaughterhouses. These are the various workers which are having higher risk of developing leptospirosis. So based on occupation of your patient, you can try to understand if the history is suggestive of leptospirosis. In addition to these occupational exposure, two important things are there. People may have contact with water at other activities like swimming or like fishing. So if water is contaminated with leptospira, then possibility of infection is there. So don't forget activities like swimming and fishing, which may involve risk of leptospirosis. Immunity. So immunity is acquired following infection. So once the person suffer from leptospirosis may become immune. Let's turn to environmental factors. What are various environmental factors? Leptospirosis, it is acquired through contact with urine or of infected animals, as already we have seen this point. So where there is more possibility related to environmental aspect, improper sanitation, poor housing standards, or if people are not getting safe water for drinking, so all these people will have risk of developing leptospirosis, whether the people are residing in urban areas or whether they are residing in rural areas. So these environmental factors matters a lot, and most important is environmental sanitation and safe water supply. In developing countries, there is one more possibility related to environmental factors and season and occurrence of outbreaks or epidemics of leptospirosis. As in the beginning we already said, so during rainy season, if floods occurs, so exposure to flood water may cause leptospirosis. So as there is possibility of mixing of urine in the water uh, at this time, and if people will get exposed to such water, outbreaks or epidemics of leptospirosis can occur. Let's turn to the next important point, which is related with the clinical aspect of leptospirosis. So what important clinical features and what is pathogenesis of leptospirosis? Incubation period is about 10 days, but it may range from 4 days to 20 days. Portal of entry, so in majority of cases it's direct contact. So these leptospira through abraded skin or even through intact skin or intact mucous membrane, they will enter, and once they enter, they spread through circulation to various tissues and even various organs. Important structures which are damaged, and to correlate this with clinical manifestation, so what happens, it may affect capillary endothelium or it may affect vessels resulting in vasculitis. And whenever there is involvement of capillary endothelium or there is vasculitis, important characteristic clinical manifestation you will get is hemorrhages. But remember, hemorrhages are seen in severe or fatal cases of leptospirosis. So once you come across hemorrhages in cases of leptospirosis, definitely prognosis will be worst in such patients. Now, in addition to this, you can find various inflammatory and degenerative changes that occurs in heart muscles and that occurs in skeletal muscles. Renal complications are very common, rather renal pathology is most important in these patients. So where there can be interstitial nephritis, and even necrosis can occur in distal convoluted tubule and descending loop of Henle. So renal pathology you should not forget. Then liver is another important organ which is involved in pathogenesis of leptospirosis. So liver, kidney, and involvement of vessels or capillary endothelium, as we said. So accordingly you can get clinical manifestations. So as in the beginning we said already, the clinical picture is variable. So some people may have mild infection, some people may have undifferentiated fever, so we won't be able to diagnose it. and some people may have very severe or fatal illness, or some may have Wills disease. Let's see what is the clinical picture. Basically, this is biphasic illness, so you can see two phases. Phase 1 is the phase when this is called as basically leptospiromic phase, and the second phase is called as immune phase. Now, what happens in first phase? It's just about 4 to 9 duration, where there will be fever near about 38 to 40 degrees Celsius. Fever will be there. This fever is associated with chills, with headache, myalgia, nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain. So this is the picture. Again, it is somewhat similar to influenza also and malaria also. So on clinical basis, differential diagnosis becomes important in such cases, because history is common. Patient is having fever, patient is having chill associated with headache, muscle pain, nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain. All these symptoms are commonly seen in majority of cases. But one of the important thing which will help you in differential diagnosis at clinical level is hyperemia of conjunctiva. So if conjunctiva appears hyperemic, this is suggestive of leptospirosis. Now, few cases may show Wills disease or Wills syndrome, where there can be hemorrhagic skin rash, or there can be hemorrhages, gastrointestinal hemorrhages, enlargement of liver, hepatomegaly. Patients will develop cholestatic jaundice, may have hematuria. Some patients may develop bronchopneumonia and may also have hemoptysis. And some patients may have acute respiratory distress. In complicated cases, patient may develop severe hypotension and congestive heart failure. So this is phase 1. Following first phase, which is known as anecteric phase, there is asymptomatic period for few days. Again, patient starts complaining of fever, and these are the cases which mainly develops aseptic meningitis. So initially we said there is involvement of liver, hepatomegaly, jaundice, there is involvement of heart, but in phase 2 there will be involvement of meninges, there is aseptic meningitis along with renal hepatic involvement, but CNS manifestations will be most important, where patient may develop encephalitis, myelitis, and Guillain-Barré syndrome, as GBS is one of the important thing we already discussed in poliomyelitis in differential diagnosis of acute flaccid paralysis. So this is phase 2, where you can get important CNS manifestation. Now this is all, whatever things we have talked, this is all related with pathology, and clinically it becomes difficult to understand. So how clinically leptospirosis cases are classified? So on clinical background, we can classify cases simply on presence of icterus. So these cases can be icteric cases or non-icteric cases or anicteric cases. Picture is, again, patient will have fever associated with headache, myalgia, cough, chest pain, neck stiffness, weakness, and some patients will develop jaundice. So icterus will be the important thing in these cases. Those patients who develop severe disease or fatal disease. So what important thing you must know, what things to be watched. So they will develop jaundice. So once jaundice appears in leptospirosis case, definitely this is something serious. Or they may develop some hemorrhagic manifestations. As we said, GI hemorrhages can occur. Then hypotension, or some congestive heart failure, renal failure, and patient may go into coma. This is the severe case of leptospirosis. What happens if leptospirosis occurs during pregnancy? So infection during pregnancy, already one thing we have said in transmission is leptospira will affect the fetus and may result in congenital transmission, or two more possibilities are there. This infection may result in spontaneous abortion, or it may result in fetal death. Now, whenever you will have a case of a febrile case, case of fever with headache, with myalgia, similar picture which you can get in influenza, malaria, and other conditions also. What are the important things that will guide you towards case of leptospirosis? So it includes hyperemic conjunctiva. So you should pay attention to conjunctiva, observe conjunctiva, then see whether jaundice is developed or not. Then make habit of per abdominal examination. So make yourself keen in observing and palpating spleen and liver. Here you can find enlargement of liver also and enlargement of spleen also. So hepatomegaly is one of the most important finding that you can get in leptospirosis. Near about 80% of cases they show liver enlargement. And so if you have a case with icterus, once you find icterus, make habit of palpating liver. And icterus with hepatomegaly you may find in one of the condition is leptospirosis, still other causes are also there for this condition. Then abdominal tenderness can be there. Meningeal signs you can get if it is a case of encephalitis or if it is a case of CNS involvement. Then altered sensorium and coma, this is also important thing. And as we said, patient may develop macular rash, and this rash in leptospirosis cases it is mainly seen on trunk and it is non-pruritic rash. So on trunk already we have discussed typhoid fever where you can get same site but rose spot rash, and here in leptospirosis site is again same, it is pruritic rash and it is only macular rash. Rose spot was maculopapular. So this is clinical differentiation for understanding. This clinical picture sometimes may mimic like that of acute cholecystitis. So you should know clinical examination related to cholecystitis so that you can come to know regarding what different signs you are supposed to elicit in these cases. For diagnosis, on clinical background, diagnosis is very difficult because it's the common picture that we get in different illnesses. So this important test we are supposed to do in leptospirosis test, it includes isolation of leptospira. Now what sample we are supposed to collect? So if it is acute phase of illness, if it is beginning phase of illness, you should collect blood and it should be sent for culture. Or if CNS manifestations are there, collect sample of CSF. But if it is late stage, that is after second week, third week, fourth week, in that case you should take a sample of urine and that should be sent to culture. So depending upon the duration of illness, sample selection will differ. So initially prefer blood CSF sample, and in later stage of illness you should prefer urine sample and it should be sent for culture. In serological test, IgM ELISA can be done, which is one of the most important tests, and microscopic agglutination test is there. This is the test which detects near about 21 serotypes of leptospira. These are important tests, and a new test is developed which is known as lepto deep stick test. So this is a rapid deep stick assay. Again it helps in detection of IgM antibodies, serological test. So simply you can say just in 2 words, if you want to remember regarding diagnosis of leptospirosis, don't forget culture and don't forget serological test. What laboratory findings you can get in these cases? So if you will see CBC report, there will be rise in neutrophil count, ESR is raised, but simultaneously there is thrombocytopenia. Once you get hemorrhagic manifestations, so thrombocytopenia is common thing to correlate. Now again, if GI hemorrhages are there, prothrombin time is prolonged. So these are important things, and as we said, 80% of cases they are showing hepatomegaly. So once clinically you find hepatomegaly, don't forget to go for liver function test where you can find elevated level of serum transaminases, that is SGOT or SGPT. They are also called as AST and ALT. So these are the enzyme levels which are elevated. And is in cases of pneumonia, you are supposed to go for X-ray, where X-ray findings will be suggestive of patchy bronchopneumonia. Regarding prognosis, in majority of cases it is self-limiting illness, but in case of fatal illness, the cause of death may be renal failure. If you are suspecting it's a case of leptospirosis, you must differentiate it from acute viral hepatitis, because this is one of the most important differential diagnosis thing. Now in DD, acute viral hepatitis, as I already said, which important thing will help you to differentiate is condition of conjunctiva. So if conjunctiva is hyperemic, it will go in favor of leptospirosis. For control, what we should do is, one thing is early diagnosis and treatment of cases, and second thing, we must pay attention to rodents, control of rodents. So as far as early diagnosis and treatment is concerned, treatment, it includes administration of antibiotics. So we can give penicillin. Even in severe cases, it can be given by intravenous route also. Other drug is doxycycline or tetracycline. So doxycycline is 100 milligram twice daily, given for 1 week. So penicillin, doxycycline, tetracyclines are the drugs which are used for treatment. For chemoprophylaxis, we can use doxycycline. Again, it is 200 milligram doxycycline, which is given a single dose once in a week. So for treatment purpose, daily doses are required, whereas for chemoprophylaxis, it is just administered weekly. Now, in rodent control, if we want to control all the diseases related with rodents, it is very important to control rodents. At the same time, for leptospirosis, protection of occupational workers is very essential. Health education to these workers is another important point. And for rodent control, it includes mainly anti-rodent measures, which includes sanitation measures, trapping, use of rodenticides, fumigation, and one technique which is under research is chemostimulants. Sanitation measures, it includes appropriate disposal of garbage, because as we know, wherever there is presence of food, rats gets attracted. So what is essential is proper storage, proper collection, and proper disposal of garbage. At the same time, foodstuffs, whatever raw food, whatever cooked food, it should be stored safely. Then food granaries. So food granaries should be constructed in such a way that a rat should not have access, or this is called as rat proof constructions. So rat proof constructions of buildings, rat proof constructions of godowns, of food granaries, all it is essential. And at the same time, what we can do, wherever there are burrows of rats, this can be eliminated. Now second is trapping. Wonder traps are there. These traps are mainly developed in Mumbai by Hafkin Institute. So these traps are baited, and local food is kept in the trap, and some bait is used. This attracts rodents, and rodents can be trapped. Now once they are trapped, they should be later on killed in appropriate manner, and this killing way of these rats which are trapped is drowning. So if we drown them into water, they get destroyed. So this is trapping followed by destruction of rats. Now use of rodenticides, different rodenticides that are available. So most commonly preferred is zinc phosphide. Zinc phosphide is rodenticide that can be used. Arsenic trioxide is very dangerous, so it is less commonly used. And other rodenticides that are used where frequent administration is essential. These are basically anticoagulant rodenticides. So it includes warfarin, coumaril, pindone, etc. In India, generally what we prefer for killing the rats is zinc phosphide. One more method for rodent control is fumigation. What is done in fumigation? Fumigation is the process, basically it helps to destroy rats as well as rat fleas also. So cyanogas is used, and there is special equipment which is known as cyanogas foot pump. So fumigation is done with the help of this equipment, and cyanogas is used for this purpose. And once fumigation is done, the burrow is sealed with mud. This is fumigation, and under experimental stage is chemosterilant. It is chemical basically which can cause permanent or temporary sterility either in both sexes or in either sex of rodents.
So, the most important control measure is controlling the rodents in our environment. Simultaneously, we should have to pay attention to proper disposal of waste. Exposure to potentially contaminated water must be avoided. It is important to protect those workers which are working in hazardous occupation. And the most important control measure, it includes health education. So health education of general population regarding leptospirosis, regarding rodent control, and regarding environmental sanitation is essential in prevention as well as controlling leptospirosis. The control measures include early detection of cases, appropriate treatment of cases. For appropriate treatment, drug of choice is penicillin, and most important control measures includes control of rodents and other environmental measures. Vaccination or immunization is another preventive measure that can be used in leptospirosis. The vaccines are available, and immunization for leptospirosis is carried out in certain countries like Italy, China, USSR. Vaccine is administered to farmers or those people which are having higher risk of infection, and even it is given to pets for prevention of disease. While manufacturing vaccine, attention should be paid that whatever serotypes are predominantly seen in that particular geographic area, these serotypes must be incorporated in the vaccine. This is very essential because immunity provided by one serotype of Leptospira do not protect against other serotypes. So whatever prevalent serotypes are there in particular geographic area, these serotypes must be incorporated in the vaccine. And vaccination of high risk group is essential for its prevention.
Let's see recap of leptospirosis. We are going to see recap based on 25th edition of KPARC. Leptospirosis is essentially animal infection. It can be caused by several serotypes of Leptospira. The disease is transmitted to man, and clinically you can see the spectrum which may vary from mild febrile illness to severe illness, and sometimes it can be fatal illness where there is involvement of liver and kidney. In human leptospirosis, one of the manifestation can be Wills disease. Leptospirosis is anthropozoonosis, that is, it is transmitted from animal to man, and in transmission rodents are playing important role. Global annual estimation of cases of leptospirosis, it includes more than 1 million, and almost 60,000 deaths. The highest incidence in some areas, it can be 975 cases per 1 lakh population. Positive agent of leptospirosis is Leptospira, which are thin motile spirochetes. The most important strain which is pathogenic, it includes Leptospira androgans. These Leptospira, they are visible by dark field illumination and silver staining. As far as total serogroups are concerned, currently 23 serogroups are known and 200 serobars are recognized. These different serotypes and serogroups, they can be found in various parts of the world. Serologically, these serotypes, they are related with cross reactivity. The most important source of infection is the urine of infected animals. Regarding reservoirs of leptospirosis, animals are important reservoirs. Leptospirosis, it affects wild animals as well as domestic animals throughout the world, and most important reservoirs are rodents such as rats, mice and voles. Similarly, domestic animals like cattle, sheep, goats or pigs and even horses may get affected. When there is possibility that these animals can acquire infection, there is possibility that these animals can acquire infection when they are grazing in such areas which are contaminated by urine of infected animals or infected reservoirs. In addition to these domestic animals, dogs may get infected, and there is possibility that children may acquire infection from infected dogs. There is one more possibility of spread of infection, and this possibility is from wild animals to domestic animals. Infection may spread, and from domestic animals it may spread to humans. Remember, the most important reservoirs are rats and small rodents. Particularly, two names you should know which are most important reservoirs. These includes Rattus norvegicus and Mus musculus. Leptospirosis infection, it is most commonly seen in males, and this is due to increased exposure of males to the infected animals and increased exposure of males to the contaminated environment. We can find leptospirosis most commonly between 20 to 45 years of age group, and it is rare in infants and young children. Why this is so? This is because infants and young children, they have minimal exposure. While taking case, you should pay attention to occupation, because there are certain occupations where there is increased risk of acquiring leptospirosis. These occupations includes agricultural occupation, farmers, specifically those farmers which are working in rice fields or those farmers which are working in sugar cane fields. In addition, there is increased risk to the underground sewer workers. As we know, the rats are most commonly found in sewers, and these people may get exposed to urine of such rats. In addition, meat handlers and animal handlers, they are having increased risk. Veterinary staff, they also have increased risk of acquiring leptospirosis. In addition to these occupational exposures, we should not forget certain activities like swimming and fishing, where there can be contact of humans with the water which is contaminated with urine of infected animals, and during these activities like swimming and fishing, infection can be acquired. Those people which acquires leptospirosis and gets recovered or cured, they may become immune, but remember, immunity is serovar specific or serotype specific. That is, the person suffering from particular serotype will become immune only to that serotype and not to other serotypes. As far as environmental factors are concerned, generally there is possibility that outbreaks of leptospirosis may occur following heavy rainfall or following conditions like flood. The other environmental factors, it includes contaminated environment. Here I am talking about environmental contamination from the urine of infected animals. Leptospirosis is the disease which is significantly associated with poor housing standards, with lack of safe water supply. It is also seen in those areas where disposal facilities for waste and for human excreta are not adequate. As far as rural-urban distribution is concerned, we can find leptospirosis in both urban areas as well as rural areas. As you know, leptospira, they are present in the soil, and the salinity of the soil and alkaline pH, these conditions provides favorable environment, and in such environment leptospira may survive for several months. Mode of transmission in leptospirosis includes 3 different modes: direct contact, indirect contact, and droplet infection. Direct contact, leptospira can enter the body through skin abrasions or even through intact skin or intact mucous membrane whenever there is a direct contact with the urine or the tissue of infected animal. Transmission by indirect contact can occur whenever there is contact of broken skin with the soil or water contaminated with urine of infected animals, or whenever there is consumption of food which is contaminated with leptospira, or there is consumption of water which is contaminated with leptospira. Droplet infection may occur due to inhalation of air containing droplets of urine, and this urine is contaminated with leptospira. When there is possibility of acquiring infection through droplet infection, the possibility is when milking infected cows or milking infected goats. Rarely we can see direct man-to-man transmission of leptospirosis. Incubation period of leptospirosis is 10 days. It ranges from 4 days to 20 days. Clinically, the spectrum of leptospirosis is very wide. There can be mild unicteric cases at one end, and to the other end there can be cases of severe leptospirosis with severe jaundice and involvement of multiple organs. Clinically, there are 2 important types of leptospirosis. It includes anicteric leptospirosis and icteric leptospirosis. Anicteric leptospirosis, it is very mild form of infection. Here, patient may present with fever. Fever may be associated with chills, myalgia, or the most important thing is there can be conjunctival hyperemia. There is headache. Some cases with involvement of lungs may show pulmonary manifestations like cough, chest pain, hemoptysis. Few cases may show hemorrhagic tendency. There is possibility that these clinical manifestations, they may decrease or they may disappear within 2 to 3 days, or sometimes they may reappear, and even some cases may progress to severe disease. Second clinical type is icteric leptospirosis. This is more severe form of leptospirosis. In this type, patient has jaundice. Patient may present with fever, myalgia, headache, conjunctival hyperemia. There is nausea, vomiting, diarrhea which is associated with abdominal pain. Majority of cases they have acute renal failure. There is hypotension, circulatory collapse. And in Wills disease, there is combination of renal failure and liver failure. Infection of leptospirosis during pregnancy, it can cause fetal complications, even it can cause fetal death, or it can cause abortion. Diagnosis of leptospirosis on clinical background is difficult, so laboratory test must be performed. These tests includes dark field examination, culture, indirect heme agglutination test, immunofluorescent antibody test, and ELISA. IgM ELISA is most commonly useful in early diagnosis, and the recent test available is Lepto Deep Stick test. For prevention, vaccine is available, and for controlling, it is essential to diagnose the cases earlier and to treat the cases appropriately. The drug of choice for treatment is penicillin, and the most important measures for controlling leptospirosis includes environmental control, and in environmental control, attention should be focused on control of rodents. It's about leptospirosis. Thanks for watching this video.